You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Whenever
right.
you are.
Hi, I'm just kidding. Hi, I'm Molly of Maison de Molly, and today I'm here with my friend.
Hi, I'm Kimberly with Decluttering Natural.
And today we're going to dive into some topics on trends relating to home organization and home design and interior design. So tell me a little bit more about yourself and how you got into what you're doing currently.
So I started just recognizing like this pattern just emerged, and I was like moving stuff from place to place, hiding it in the closet, under the bed, whatever, you're like just getting out of the way. So you're like, oh, come in. Like my place always looks like this.
Effortless.
Yes, no, it doesn't. This is why I truly started this. I was like, I need it for me. Like, how'd you get into it? I'm like, I needed organizing. I am
the
declutter.
success story.
I am the problem, yes. I think it's normal to not have this perfect space.
Well, Instagram would tell you otherwise.
Well, Instagram is the side of, so what you see in the pictures, but you don't see behind.
Yeah, it's like that
camera.
on a photo shoot. It's like that, you see
So
magazines
true.
and you're looking through and
So
you're like,
true.
wow, that kitchen looks so
Yes.
perfect. And then behind is the trash can and all the floral stems and like all the junk
Everything
that
you did
you've
to prep
shoved
for it.
over.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
every time.
Yeah. I think one of the things that happens is I will talk to somebody who's interested in maybe decluttering, and they'll tell me like, you've never seen this before. Like my place, I think it's pretty common. Like we're all busy and we all have things going on, and
Like I never want
Right.
people to feel embarrassed about their space, and I'm sure you feel the same way going into it. It's like, I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
You don't need to have it all figured out. Like you called me, you reached out to me, I'm here to help you. I want to help you, and I'm not judging the state of your house.
Yeah.
I am not someone who's gonna walk in and be like, yeah, this needs to change and that has to go and this has to happen. It is a very personal process, and every client is different. And so you kind of help them work through things one at a time, really.
yeah. Even before the initial session, is they're very overwhelmed, and that's usually what leads them to me, and they're like, let's do this because I need somebody to help me. And what I've noticed is, after we talk, they'll kind of go through all the different rooms in the house, and they'll be like, hey, let's work on this needs help, what's the basement, let's do the living room, kitchen.
They give you everything.
Yes. And I'm like, okay, but what is the priority? What of all these spaces could be one, is the most important, gets used the most, and then two, is something somewhat easy, because unfortunately, while yes, there is some relief after you do even just a couple hours.
Oh, I'm definitely the person sitting in the middle of
Yes.
the room after I've torn it all apart,
Yeah.
and then I question my life for about 2 hours,
Yes.
and then I try and shove it all back in.
Yes. Yes. So you're like, what do you do? Because you got to keep living your life while you're in this middle of this long-term investment into
Declutter.
improving it.
Yeah.
And so I usually start with a smaller room or a smaller space within that room, and then I really just pare it down. And it seems to work really well. And I'm curious how that also helps you. Do you do anything like that in design?
Yes. So it's rare, right, that you get a client that is just like, I want to redo my entire house all at once.
Yeah.
Most people want to do room by room as well. And so it's easier, it's easy to take it in stages, because it also builds the trust. And so by the time you've done that third or fourth room, they're like, yeah, if you like that, let's do it. And
That's nice.
they trust you, right? And so they know, and they've worked with you long enough that you've kind of built that rapport, you've built that relationship. And that's one of the reasons I love design, because you build a relationship with your clients. And I'm sure you find the same thing. I mean, I find it an honor to be invited into people's homes, their most personal spaces, and then being able to say, okay, well, this needs to change. And you do that with their personal items too. And so it has to be this really well-oiled machine where you get along with one another and you can work well with one another.
Yeah. I think sometimes people need to see something the first time around, okay, I do like this. I trust the process. Let's go big or go home, or let's continue this.
We are home.
We are here finally. But yeah, no, I agree. I definitely say this a lot to myself, and sometimes, to my clients, but it's a privilege for me to get to see their skeletons. Really, that's how I look at it.
Skeletons in the closet.
I get to come into their space and see the most intimate parts of their life.
I want to know, in your
Yes.
closet, do you
Yes.
turn the hangers around?
I used to.
Okay.
I don't do anymore.
So the hanger trick, for people who might not know, is you turn all your hangers a certain way at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So you go through, you organize all your clothes.
I would say even season.
Or season.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, power to them if they're doing it seasonally. I don't, but and I should. You turn all your hangers around, and then based on the amount of hangers that haven't been turned by the end of whatever period of time are the clothes you have to get rid of because you haven't worn them.
Yeah.
I would probably be like flipping them real quick, you know? I'd have to, someone would have to keep me honest.
Also, I mean, you don't have to. Like, sometimes it's just a realization.
Yeah.
It's a realization of like, oh, hey, like I didn't wear this. Maybe I can wear it in the next couple
Or
of months.
why didn't I?
It's less decision fatigue. And that's the thing with organizing is there's a lot of decision fatigue that goes into it. Do you find in design that like when you're working with your clients, there's a lot of decision fatigue? Is that a thing also?
I mean, people hire a designer to help with that, right?
Right.
But there's still sometimes, there's so much out there, and it's very difficult for a client sometimes to trust that you've narrowed it down for them. So it's like, I promise that I have searched and I'm giving you the 4 best options for this cohesive design. I'm always willing to go back and forth and you know, modify things, of course.
Yeah.
But I think there is a lot of decision fatigue, especially in clients who are maybe a little bit more hands-on or don't feel as confident in the decisions that they're making. And so you end up hand-holding a little bit, and that's not bad. That's just part of the process. So I have some clients who just jump right in and they're like, yes. And I have other clients who want to sit with it a little bit and kind of imagine them in the space or imagine them using the space. So I think it's just, some people are very visual, some people are not. And it's just kind of navigating that as a professional who is offering a service where people kind of just have to trust you that it's going to look good. And so that's why I do a lot of the floor planning and 3D modeling, because people need to see it.
First and foremost, it's all about priority. Looking at, let's say, a kitchen is a great example. There's so much stuff that hides in there. So there's so much that you can design to make it like really work for who is using the space.
I don't want you to pull out my kitchen drawers.
Well, it might be necessary. I think a trend right now might be to have open
shelving.
Open shelving, yes.
Yeah.
And to display things nicely, so you can take your now organized stuff. It's functional, and it's aesthetically pleasing, and they go hand in hand.
Well, I think there's this movement too towards your everyday items, elevating your everyday items. So people who do have an open kitchen with open shelving do want to have their plates and their glasses out that they use all the time. I know people are always like, oh, it's going to get dusty. Not if it's the things you use every day.
True.
So if you have, 4 to 6 plates up there and a couple glasses, you're going to go through those in the course of 2 days or whenever you decide to run your dishwasher again. And so that's something that I have seen a movement towards, that of, being a little bit more intentional about your everyday glassware and your everyday plates, but that they can be displayed and they can be used in a functional way, but it's also decorative.
And then also I would even say to prioritize it from like bottom shelf to top shelf. The bottom shelf is the stuff that you use the most. So if you know you're gonna grab like a coffee mug every single day because you drink coffee, you want that on the bottom shelf. You want an easy grab to go, like you're on your way out.
Practical.
Yes.
Practical.
After you've now organized all your stuff, you can take it and then put it on display and bring in those pops of color. And then you can change it if you don't like it.
Well, and cookbooks too. So I love displaying cookbooks on shelves, or even just like if there's enough counter space, you can stack them in a corner, and that is a little pop of color. But your kitchen can be very timeless and very elegant, and you can just swap pops of color out.
Do you see a trend for color?
I mean, I love color. I always push people towards color, but you always need a neutral too. Generally, I think us smaller designers have to fight for color a little bit more because people are still hesitant. They might see it on Instagram, but it's like, oh, well, that person who has 1 million followers and is super successful is doing it. I could never do it. So it's a little bit of a push and pull in a healthy way to try and establish some area where color could be infused. Color drenching is super popular, so walls, ceiling, trim, all of it being the same color, which I actually really love if you pick the right color. But I think a lot of people, when they think of color, they think of like the primary, like bright pops of color, or like, oh, everything's gonna be neon. It can be very subtle, it doesn't have to be absolutely crazy.
When I think of a home, you think cozy, warm tones, which are not grays, are needed to create that sense. Like I want to do a little accent wall. One wall.
Yes.
One wall, not the whole thing, but an accent wall. And it's going to have some warm tones in it. It's not going to be a whole lot of color, but just enough.
It'll be enough. It'll balance your space.
Yes.
And every space is different because some are larger and some are smaller, and it depends on the amount of color you wanna dip your toe into the water, as they say.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, gray is out. Grayish is what people say is in. So it's like the warmer gray, warm tones.
I will agree, yes.
And then white kitchens. White kitchens are out. People are trying to stray away from them. And it's not a cleanability thing. I think people think it's too sterile when you do a completely white kitchen. So I have seen a lot of people do an off-white. So it's not like the stark white. It's a warm white, and you do brass textures or copper, and you kind of warm it up with those tones as well. Generally, you want to avoid a stark white kitchen. Well, we've been talking a lot about home, right? Yes. And organizing at home, but so many people are very stressed at work. Yes. And so how do you do digital organization?
Emails is a great one, going through and filtering, figuring out. It's the same.
All the folders.
Yes, it's the same thing that you do physically, you can do digitally. It's deciding what area of the digital world you want to work in. And then from there, going through and being like, what's your priority? Like, what's on fire? You know, what's the thing that's the biggest issue for you?
I just want to be like, everything's on fire.
Let's say that, you're a photographer and, you have a project due in like a week, and the idea is like, that's the project that you should be organizing first and foremost, not the ones that you've already done.
Well, and I'm sure for you, it's encouraging people to take time when you're gone, right? Like to say, hey, once a week for 1 hour, you need to go through your work emails, or you need to go through your personal emails, or, sort things so that you don't feel super stressed later.
Yeah.
So it's just carving out some time to figure out what decluttering they need to do, what design they need to do, and do they need to hire, and when do they know if they need to hire? Maybe that's what we should talk about too, is how does someone know when they get to the point where they need professional help?
Right. And I think just having a conversation with one of us, I always tell my clients that I'm here to help you. I'm here to make your life better. That's literally it. That's
what's so fulfilling about what we do.
Yes.
I mean, every day is a new adventure, but it's a new story. I feel like we get to know our clients so personally, and it's really an honor. I know we keep saying that, but it really is an honor to work with them so closely and be invited into their spaces and help.
You have to end with dancing and singing your favorite song from Hamilton.
No. I want to be in the room where it happened. You asked.